Nowadays, if you study Kabbalah, you're mostly going to study something called Lurianic Kabbalah. This was invented in the 16th century by a charismatic rabbi called Isaac Luria. And this, because it came about 100 years after the invention of the printing press, is the Kabbalah that most people know about because it was written about all over the world. And the seminal Kabbalistic book, which is called the Zohar, and there's confusion about when that was written, whether it was in the 2nd century or in the early Middle Ages, that was printed by the printing presses, and that became the textbook for Kabbalists to interpret. Now, Isaac Luria was a Kabbalist who was born in Egypt and then went to live in Israel. And this was at a time when the Jewish nation had just gone through the Spanish Inquisition, and immense cruelty had been perpetrated upon them and on many other people who weren't conventional Christians, or who had converted to Christianity and not done it in the correct way. So, there needed to be a new impulse, and this is the reason why. Up until then, Kabbalah had all been based on the idea that when God created the world, he made it perfect. That's in the book of Genesis, and God saw that it was good, and God saw that it was very good. And the Kabbalistic principles teach that when God created the world, and the whole of the universe, not just the world, he did it by a series of zigzags. It's known as the lightning flash, and it goes down the tree like that. And the reason for this is that God, when he wanted to create a universe, first had to create a no space, because if you're God, you're the absolute. You're complete and utter absolute. So if you want to create something else but you've got to create a space to put it in. So that was the beginning of what we call duality. So what God did was create a space like that, like a womb, and breathe the universe into it. We have a bit of that in the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, that God spoke creation. But you've got this idea of an endless light pouring into a void as God creates the universe. But you know perfectly well that if you start a race and there's no end to it, nobody wins the race. Or if you turn on a kettle and it doesn't boil and then stop, it just boils itself dry and then explodes. So the idea of the endless light coming into this void, it had to have boundaries to stop it. So the light came down, was stopped, and then came back over here, and then went over there, and then went over there, and there, and there, and there, and there. And the idea is that it's impulse constraint, impulse constraint, impulse constraint. And it's a matrix. It's just the way the universe works, and it works very well. Now, the idea was that God did this, and it was very good. And each of these circles, which are known as sephirot, held the light and transmitted it on. So God saw that the world was perfect, so there was no evil. The only evil was the misuse of human free will, and that we were all responsible for what happened to us in our lives. Then comes something like the Spanish Inquisition, where thousands and thousands of good people are tormented and persecuted. And they couldn't believe that they had all in past lives behaved badly, or something terrible had been deserved. And they were quite right about that. What had happened was that they weren't able to move away from where they were. But they needed a new impulse in Kabbalah that would explain how this could happen, how bad things basically happen to good people. So Isaac Luria got this huge impulse to say, when God created the universe, the light was too strong for the vessels and they shattered. And that shattering, the shards from the vessels, caused an external evil which then attacked mankind. So the people could believe that bad things happen to good people. All well and good, it doesn't matter which system you want to believe. I personally go for the first one, which is now called the Toledano tradition. Luria's version of Kabbalah took off like wildfire, and of course it was explored and published all over the world. But nowadays, in the 21st century, we're beginning to go back to the original Kabbalistic teaching. We understand that bad things do happen to people because they can't get out of the way, and that bad things happen because people in responsibility behave with an evil intent and others don't stop them. So, in the world where we understand the law of attraction, cosmic ordering, and positive thinking, we can go back to the original form of Kabbalah. And that's really helpful for people like me who's not a Jewish scholar, because then we can go back to the basics, to the diagrams, and start working out what Kabbalah means in our own individual lives. We don't have to be the scholar, we don't have to be the Hebrew expert, we don't have to be Jewish. We do have to make a commitment to our own personal growth and our own spirituality, and that to me is a great thing. Kabbalah does not involve having to wear red string. It does not involve having to be a part of the Kabbalah Center. If you want to be, that's absolutely fine. But you must, at the beginning, choose. Do you want to follow the Lurianic tradition that believes that it's basically a world that is shattered and needs to be repaired? Or do you want to follow the Toledano tradition that believes that the world is perfect and it's our perception and our free will that makes it look any other way? The choice is completely up to you, and in the end, the idea is simply to find your own freedom and your own spirituality and your own relationship with God.